Yes.
Jam den den gumbo jambe yong la cha za lo kange lo de dem yin den da nye da nam da ra sra ve chi nye dang chi yen ze shre ni je tu gra le wang zen kong dai si be zhen re ma re men tang do nge che ze ve Rosoi con lai puche tar tse yin lai tu ju yong den song Rudare che ro nyamo ni kong le je chao ro ron ze jen Ma re men se dong ran yu ku chi nye chen ze ra je nam dene ta jin sa ju tar se yun den du zo ja se tu yu ku Chödrak, 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 Dalé, Mesen, Jambe, Yong, Lai, Amara, Zanade, 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 Amara, Zanade, 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 Amaraba zanada 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 Amara Bazanada Amrazanadanum Zanadanum 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 Zanad Amara Bazanadanum Zanadanum 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 Zanad Amara Bazanadanum Zanadanum 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 Zanad Amara Bazanadanum Zanadanum 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 Amara Bazana de Zeden Jeje Chera Özreche Talü Dimamen Barav Srane Kadan Yö Yolu Topaye Lobe Bobe Nungwa Saldu So Damke Du Jecha Jeri Zutron Jenje Medu Duje Bonjamba Serje Lumbo Davra Jebe Gu Shakje Jebe Shablan Gu Sal Jabian Shana Durje Jinreze Sayin Imbo Dewan Nambrasar Namke Nimbo Shamba Gondo Zon Yewe Sejin Jela Chaje Sheche Kala Chinrabi Chinguraje Zebe Don Durje Len Apo Yarve Denba Gune San Zebe Kajurumbo Che Shaje Wo Kongge Chenje Deshin Yi Kejing Ni La Charwa Kong Lama Rinchen Tabi Ku Durje Chinsha Pe La Chödong Chöyin Ne Lu Man Ro Wara Chiyin Zingne Chimbe Yi Shije Roso Yi La Genge Padra War Rigbe Durje Charab Nyonje Chao Lasso Chosim La Jausun Rove Sem Tang Kashab Jisem Jin La Mikpe Ndambani Jisem Je Jesu Tembe Gone Tambe Chu Senro Nang.
So, as usual, begin by recollecting the precious qualities of the three jewels and take refuge in them. Also, generate the Bodhi-mind, which focuses on the goal of attaining enlightenment in order to be able to benefit all beings, as a preparation for listening to the explanations that are to be given.
다 가장 배제 신내진 직된 메타과 연배 추대 슈차와라고 지체 다 대린 난 주지sem진 대 메타과 연바 땜베네 갑들이
Yesterday we concluded the explanations regarding the outer world in terms of its impermanent nature. Today we'll continue with the same topic, that of impermanence, but in relation to all sentient beings who inhabit the world. This world or any other world system.
다때 당보 산제지 도데 야셔롤 바스게 도직 요래 단데 도 망보 쇼지를 디자버저래 버게 간주는 농가 대게 간주는 농가 버 예담 라세 간주라 버 두긴 버요 오 틴데긴 도데지 망고 쇼지를 디자버들라 팔보체 쓰기요래 말이다 박바 야셔롤 변도 소리요래
In this segment, the author of the Jewel Ornament, Gampopa, begins by quoting a sutra, and a sutra is a lecture Buddha Shakyamuni gave on a specific topic. And here the quotation is from a collection of sutras, a collection of lectures given by the historic Buddha of our time, Buddha Shakyamuni. And the name of this collection of sutras in Sanskrit is the Lalita Vistara Sutra. Now, as was said, this is a collection of lectures, and one finds that in Old Tibet there were two major publishing houses of Buddhist scriptures, one in Derge and one in Lhasa, and both of them have printed this collection of lectures by Buddha Shakyamuni, as well as all other sutras found in the body of scriptures which make up all sutras, all lectures Buddha Shakyamuni gave.
제당 별라 간예 산제기 송용조 콜렉션 체네 신기게라 파르kö샤와 파르kö자와 파제가 죽지여 개체래 디나는 작체셔라고데 네개 파르콩당 데네 나르통 파르콩 클라세
나르탕
야 정쇼리어 나르탕 데네 클라세 파르콩 텐조레 작체와
Now, in terms of Old Tibet, there were a number of printing houses, around 5 major ones, and in the old days the script would be carved on wood blocks and then printed with those carved wood blocks by hand, evidently. Now, the most well-known publishing houses were the publishing house of Derge, the publishing house named Nartang, which was located in the Tsang region, and a publishing house simply named the Lhasa Publishing House, as it was located in the capital.
Dinana Karsung Sena Kamsum Meta Kamsum Siksum Meta Denke Tinanda Songare.
So Gampopa here quotes a single phrase from this collection of sutras, which he uses as the basis for, in short, describing impermanence with reference to sentient beings, the impermanent nature of sentient beings. The sentence or the phrase goes as follows. Di sisu mita da sentient tamche sipa sumla deking is sentient tamche ti mita pare sungye saraba.
Songare thank you the shema
Nga de dang pu jor go. Okay. Den de somji kovalen go ge jorwa. Yeah. So the phrase goes as follows. All sentient beings who inhabit the three realms are of an impermanent nature, or simply are impermanent. They are like the autumn clouds in the sky.
Te Karasongarasana Penna Sipa Sum Kam Sum Sinkin Denzo Tanamba Sanje Pege Songsul Jire Ndro Penna Semjin Kamla Jum Mindrawa Sum La Tene Devu Jeve Ne Mindrawa Sum Song Devte Penna Ju Migewa Chang Chang La Jeval Tene Jeve Ne Tanda Misong Sum Tang Ju Sakje Jigewa Sakpala Tene Min Jikten Tang Dakam Belai Jikten La Jegidu Chevre Tegana Shingi Ju Shinegiting and Zin La Seki the Lone Song la Tene Ta Shinegiran Balatene Zukam Jine Zukam Jine Suchewa Tang Tele Zumichiting and Zin Gamne Teen Jevu Zumir Haino the Generate the Kam Zukam Zumich comes number Sumli Jate.
Now there was the mention of the three realms. Now, the three realms are explained as levels of existence where any kind of rebirth and its circumstances are possible simply. The type of rebirth obtained depends upon the course of action of the individual who takes rebirth in the life preceding the new rebirth, as well as in the context of all his previous rebirths. So, a world system, a so-called impure world system, like the world we inhabit, according to Buddhism, is made up of three primary levels of existence, which each has its cause in terms of the sentient beings reborn there. And the cause has to do with the type of actions that an individual has primarily engaged in. That will determine more or less which level of existence he'll take rebirth in. So individuals who primarily engage in non-virtuous actions take rebirth in any of the three so-called lower existences, where the norm is suffering, constant suffering. And it's a matter of very harsh circumstances of suffering. Then there is the kind of individual who has primarily engaged in virtuous actions, but on the basis of the notion of a self, the belief in a self. That will bring about rebirth, either as a human being or as a so-called divine being within the desire realm. Then there are individuals who, in their rebirth prior to the existence that is to be described, as well as in previous lives, have primarily engaged in meditation practice, trained in so-called shamatha meditation, which is about fostering a one-pointed state of mind, focused on just one object of meditation, which makes for a calm and somewhat clear mindset without perturbations, because of having trained extensively in this kind of meditation. And those individuals, depending upon the level of calm they have achieved, will take rebirth either in the so-called realm of form or the realm of no form. Both existences are, or those who inhabit both these existences, are named divine beings. In that the existences or the sentient beings in those existences have achieved a somewhat refined mindset when compared to other existences in an impure world system.
System that the dead see person come to Jevina, Pana that Dungar Gichani Shana, Yalwatenzo, Parm, Macheve Dungan Yongiorva. Then it say Gichani Yava in Yawatenzo Cesarian Bushitare. Yawalatena, Yedagin Jigdente, Cesar Tontongre, Dungarian Toads, Chongior. Yena Yang, Melatena, Yedate Serengo Shivuchre. Make a law, Bomtra to be out. Tene, Tagana Shinket to enroll in a young, but Cesang Epa Mere, to enroll recatching Cesar Ringbo, Serengo de Giore, to enroll catch 카진 주세를 삼아도양 미대바 임바레 된저 상마 양 너나 시스 메탁베라인 바시레 제버 다 멜레 차샤나 가란서 셰버테 메인직된 때다 멜라라 제통통 라라 세링보 라라리나 페나카리슈 벤조르던 덴바 라라 가양 매바 시기도가 내서 칸들 가래 있나양 메타브라진체 대가나 신기다 감고만이래요 대가랑 시스템 메타 던게 땡단다 스페이스하우데 던게 뒤세게 템바던서 배 long road 되그러와 ता तंके टिंग थांदे टिंबा द्रबजिना मा लंगे दे देव सोंट जियोट तंके टिंबा तंजो के जि मिदे यो देव सोंट जियोट तेनाशी छेने रोदेगरे सोंरे
Now one can then understand that the circumstances of these various levels of existence originate with the type of action that, or the type of actions that sentient beings have engaged in. Now, if we look at the three so-called lower realms or existences, the lowest, as it were, is about a number of hellish types of existence, referred to as hellish types of existence simply because the extent of suffering there is very vast, very great, and the type of suffering or the types of suffering found there is about very harsh suffering, exceedingly difficult. Also, in terms of the length of the lifespan, compared to the length of the lifespan of humans, those in the hellish existences, their lifespan is far longer. Of course, there is a variation in terms of the different subtypes here, or sub-levels of hellish existences. However, in all of them, compared to the length of the lifespan of humans, the lifespan there is exceedingly long. Then you have the next of the lower existences, which is the land of the pretas, where suffering primarily have to do with being impoverished to a very great extent. And here again, the length of the lifespan is much, much longer than that of human beings. The length of a lifespan here may last for 100,000 years, during which the individual is experiencing the effects of his previous non-virtuous actions, harm which he has inflicted upon others and that he now experiences in consequence of having chosen in previous lives to do so. Then there is the third of the three lower existences, which is the animal kingdom. Here, in terms of suffering and length of lifespan, it's not as harsh as in the two previous existences. Though, of course, in the land of Pretas, the suffering is slighter than in the hellish existences. However, if one compares the suffering of those in the land of Pretas with suffering, possible types of suffering in the world of humans, then in the land of Pretas, the extent is far greater in terms of the suffering. Now, if we go back to the animal kingdom, you have so many species. And in terms of length of lifespan, some species have quite a long lifespan, over 100 years, and some species only live for a day, some just a few hours. So there is a great variation here. However, the common denominator for all of them is that all those existences and those inhabiting them are of an impermanent nature. If reborn in a hellish existence, one isn't doomed to remain there forever. There will be an end to the hellish existence in question once the consequences of one's previous actions have been experienced. And if we look at the world of human beings, there are also great variations. Some people have very good circumstances, there is wealth, there is good health, there is a long lifespan, whereas others are poor, impoverished, do not have enough to eat, and so on. So here again, the circumstances are very varied. However, the common denominator for all of those existences is impermanence. And that applies to the higher levels of existence listed shortly early, inhabited by so-called divine beings. Impermanence is the hallmark of those existences as well. And that's why the Buddha, in his lecture, made use of the example of clouds in the autumn sky. Once that season, the autumn begins, the weather changes, and there is a lot of more wind than during the summer, and so on and so forth. Therefore, the clouds during the autumn season, the clouds in the sky, move quite fast because of the more windy climate during this season. And that then illustrates, or is an illustration of rather, the impermanence of all those existences that were listed.
That Tanda Shujure, Sibasam Kak Neve, Droatam Jem Metapa Imbare, Ta ti tsu gam de dongbo rangi ju la jarne gam. Tsu chik nipa yin ju la jarne gam tsu chik te namba ni song do.
Rangi ju la jarne song du va. Ju chik te la gang.
Ju chik te la rangi sim ju ge de be pongpo ndela migne. Mi yu te karresana
Jugi pung po ma yimpa.
zug pongpo
Punga yinang ne shenta shi.
mare zug pongpo zor chobe pongne du batala. Semju ge du barwan de so kanga. Semju ge do so de ngayin sam sem ge dabu jab de yorwa.
Tare yinete tsikti kogin do ko dönta di kava dogo yame.
Danda dendere ndwa. Pena kiki ge ponga te nge ponga marwa.
Mare.
Nge hepe nge ponga yin ten dabu jab mendwa.
Mindu.
Rang-
O dakpo gyab kendi shepa yimpa che.
Shepa yin bache. Di rang da yin se ya ge yawa.
Tene ngagi sampadi yepa che.
Ya,
Tene shen chik parese gi jiravata.
ya.
Shendela.
Tape na derawa. Ngarang rang shi yin ba yin pe na yin tele chikpa chikchang ge shi yin ba sama tang tang jirawa.
Re yene dangpo rangi gyula. Tingi kava do de nga nang ki samchi. Kamsum ki samchi. Dina shen gyula jar. Rang gyula takpa tang. Shen gyula jarva se du. Rang gyula takpa.
Ngarang ge
Tak che tang ya.
ya tak che tang ne Gampo re song.
Tene shuma gom tang de chik sungera ba.
Lang
Tene dakpo gyapa gi chik de gogi mendo ba ina.
rang tate ma je na digido.
Lasso. So, as was just pointed out, all sentient beings without exception, whatever their circumstances, whatever the level of existence they inhabit, they are but impermanent, all of them, regardless of length of lifespan, circumstances, the type of existence they inhabit, and so on. And in terms of grasping this, Gampopa gives two perspectives. One begins by examining oneself in terms of one's personal circumstances and so on, in order to clearly understand or clearly come to see, to grasp that one is of an impermanent nature. So the first segment here deals with that kind of investigation and analysis. The practitioner himself looks at himself in the light of various aspects that will be listed in order to acquire a comprehensive knowledge of that he's of an impermanent nature. Next, one is to consider the same, but with reference to all other sentient beings, so that one also gets a grip on their impermanence, as it were. So I presume the idea is that otherwise if one focuses upon one's own situation only and disregard the various perspectives as to impermanence of others, that would be a bit imbalanced. So one does the same type of investigation with respect to oneself as well as all other sentient beings in order to understand how all sentient beings, oneself included, are impermanent.
Ta rang ge ju la ta che tang su te la desin ra ni xian du de yin de desin tang bo te la nang se ge ye song xia
Nang se ge ye va ka che?
ye
Ji. So the text starts out with advising the practitioner to look at himself in the light of his impermanence. And here there are 4 aspects listed.
Ta de ye ge nan tang bo te gar song bar sana chiwa gamba song ta pen na ngan ji tin di nang tu yuan ring bo de ge ma re ta shi thau chue shi ge re sang sang bu sam na tang tang de tre ten de chi go gun du song ha re pen na tan de
Yun ring tung shiramindu
ya yuan ring bo de ge ma re
cha she de re
cha she de re
la so.
de la mi gung de kan de se mi gi yo ra sana pen na nga ran so ta tanda u ji pa ngen do se tang bro wa ta chung ngum ma tu na nga shi tsar wa chi wa sing chin da ga ran de de yo re ti yin de ta nga yo ren bo ji de long yo re ma de sam ma ta ta ten chi we jin ta ter ka ho ya 치진 잠빌 렌다 파 망루 로그도와 텐데체데 다 여름 보지 내야게 다득 마시 송마다.
The first of the 4 aspects is the following. The practitioner is to contemplate the following, to give detailed thought about death, his own death, in order to acquire an understanding of the fact that the time of death is uncertain, that perhaps the length of one's own lifespan won't be as long as one usually anticipates. And in order to understand this, one should think about the following. When I breathe out, usually I immediately breathe in. But let's say, at one point when I breathe out, an adverse circumstance happens and I do not breathe in, that would spell my instant death. So what's the logical consequence of this in terms of developing an understanding of that death can happen at any time? Well, there are many circumstances that could make that happen. It's not at all certain that one is able to breathe in having breathed out. Therefore, death is a constant companion. And particularly in today's world, there are so many circumstances that may cause sudden death. And one may find oneself in that kind of situation at any time. Having breathed out, one has breathed one's last. Sudden death happens because of whatever circumstances. One should foster an awareness of that this is a very real possibility.
Perna dogon dinner saye te top down dingman nga chini parula that kayang ba mero.
Consider the fact that the dinner you plan to have once this lecture has finished and you've gone back home may never happen. You might breathe your last before you come home tonight. It's not at all, there is no guarantee whatsoever that you will have the dinner you planned to have tonight.
Perna get under lecture taking ngala heart attack chabayina charro lecture yukdut masong.
If, for example, Khenpo Rinpoche, while or during him giving this lecture, has a sudden heart attack and dies, then he'll never eat that dinner tonight. And it's a very real possibility. It's not a figment of imagination to consider that sort of circumstance. It can actually happen. There is no guarantee that this will not happen today.
Tinde yang do ngaran so semne chi kamna ngaje chesimal pembe shawachi tang ngaje chesim jewang hab시 켈링 kinji 있는 송데 시말 pembe shawachi 제용으로 와.
So what's the point of thinking of those possibilities? Well, presumably as a Buddhist, one has a good knowledge of what one may refer to as the principle of reincarnation. The fact that death in this life doesn't spell the end of everything. One takes rebirth again, lives that life, and then one takes yet another rebirth in an endless progression. So, in order to have good circumstances, and in particular for a Buddhist practitioner, as to continuing to practice the path to enlightenment in future lives, it's important that one pays attention to the nature of the actions one engages in this life, in that the nature of those actions will be part of determining the circumstances in one's future lives. So, understanding that death can happen at any time would inspire the practitioner to make the best of what he has right now, the time he has now, in order for him to obtain a good rebirth.
Pena nanjor jong sung melare pe song ro.
Now, Tibet's well-known yogi Milarepa is reported to once have said the following: the reason for me running off to secluded places in the mountains and spending the rest of my life there, the reason for doing that was my fear of death. And while in secluded places in the mountains, I contemplated death, possible death and its circumstances to a very great extent. And finally, I have arrived at, or rather attained, the level of enlightenment where I have gone beyond birth and death, the endless progression of rebirths. Yesterday, Khenpo Rinpoche explained in terms of impermanence that there are the two perspectives of it, coarse and subtle. And as to the subtle perspective, in the end, as to that perspective, one arrives at the true nature of things, the fact that all things are essenceless, insubstantial, and unreal, so-called emptiness. And if there is a final realization of emptiness, at that point, or the consequence of that realization, of the mindset which knows emptiness, that enlightened mindset, the consequence of it is that one has freed oneself from the endless cycle of rebirths in various existences. Kushakalakala.
Yeah.
Chisung
Depena.
Shina, nga Shina gaken mampudu.
Yeah, concern the Pagong che too. Then I see it to Jetengi in sort. Not she you the came into Nanjo Sanjong Yaware sort.
Milarepa is reported to have said the following just before his passing. There are many who would like to see me dead. Now Milarepa had quite a few enemies and so on because of what had occurred in the early parts of his life. And he's reported to have said, well, there are many who would like to see me dead, and in order to satisfy that desire of theirs, I'm leaving this world now. However, that's just a display of me leaving this world. In fact, I'm now at a level where birth and death are no longer any issues in terms of my person. I have gone beyond the dichotomy of birth and death. Now, many of you may have read the biography, the life example of Milarepa, and you would therefore know that in the later part of his life, in consequence of his achievements, in consequence of his enlightenment simply, he became very well known at the time.
Yungdare, Panamela, Panamkan, and Punrogio, Chuo, the Tenzok and the Katu Mare, Jektim, Megisaman, Gogmare,
Chu, Katuki Mari,
Chuchambotenda, Yona, Tigan, Chuti, Gegona, Jinka, Bugro, Kontaka to be over. Chugela, Pebrobior, Sal Pebber, Nashincha.
Now, the fact that Milarepa had gone beyond the limitations of worldly existences, he himself demonstrated many times after his enlightenment, such as displaying what is popularly known as miracles, like moving through space, or being able to cross the waters of a river without the assistance or aid of a vehicle or any other person. Tene, sumpade, kare song Jesu.
Make Kalal and the Gogiamare, Tengenzink.
As well as the fact that he could sustain the good health of his physical body by way of meditating, not needing to take solid foods, for example. And people who witnessed these various events would be very impressed and become very often devoted disciples, and his fame spread throughout Tibet as well as some areas of neighboring countries, and this caused a lot of jealousy among others in the Buddhist communities in Tibet. The fact of his fame. Sula sere de geshe
Geshe tege mele lomaya yinkin Korang zane chöndo doze shudenkin nyamachi yor nyamasena ta trombe magin re tikab nyamag lukso yor ba chara tu jite to chi sho do nge chö lo yu ya ko shiwu jite yu se ta tikab le phe le yu te pe mi se ba ge gong chen bu de yu za chen bu zi ge yu se de de yong se la ba re.
Now there was a man at the time by the name Geshe Tsakupa, who had met with Milarepa, and his reaction was an adverse one. He was quite jealous of Milarepa because of his fame. Geshe Tsakupa himself also taught the Buddha Dharma and had a following, however much smaller, and he was not at all pleased with Milarepa's fame, and felt that it would be better if he were dead. And there was an old lady in the Buddhist community who at times would go to Milarepa for teachings and meditation instructions, and at times she would also go to Geshe Tsakupa for instructions and guidance. Now, at one point, Geshe Tsakupa took her aside and told her that if you were to be able to poison Milarepa, I will give you a very valuable turquoise.
Te dukje lukjane ta xie
Kalanangla.
ya xie jig nang du luk te Milarepa le te kujap chenpo chen xie de pyungkin song.
And so she accepted. She prepared a meal, which she put in a bowl, in which she had mixed in poison. Went to Milarepa, pretended to make an offering of this meal to him because of her devotion for him.
Te Milarepa song de ta trin charang de kanda thang yo mare chu tinge sag mare song de.
Milarepa had said to her, well, you know, you will not achieve your goal today. I do not accept the meal you've offered me. Which gave her a fright, of course, and she left. Which she reported to Geshe Tsakupa, telling him he is a clairvoyant. He knew what I was up to. I'm certainly not going to try again.
저런 윤데 다다 컨덴도스 대 유데 덴데 양 야고 싶지요 모텔 샘바 쇼스다 되네 유데 밀락발 라네 신이 뭐 되네 데코르 송스 도드
나서
된 밀라레버 데푸데 밀라레버 오다 저런 탄다 토는게 사샤게스 대 제샤
Now Geshe Tsakupa took out his valuable turquoise, showed it to her and said, well, look, this will be your reward. And she was very enamored with this turquoise, and she accepted it. Went home, prepared another poisoned meal a few days later, which she again brought to Milarepa, who that day accepted the meal. Geshe Tsakupa apparently had said to her, when showing her the turquoise, the man is not a clairvoyant. It's just a coincidence in terms of what he said. And so Milarepa accepted the meal. He ate the meal and fell very ill, having told the old lady, well, some people have a very great desire for seeing me dead, so I will fulfill that desire of theirs. And he fell ill and was in great pain because of the poison. And he called the old lady and told her, you have today poisoned me and I've been in great pain. I advise you to never do this sort of thing ever again. And then he gave her instructions in terms of the Buddhist path. And so she simply broke down and regretted what she had done. And Geshe Tsakupa was informed of what had occurred, and he also realized that what he had made this old lady do on his behalf was very wrong, and he regretted his ways and went to Milarepa, confessed and acknowledged the wrongdoing he had engaged in.
타마밀라레베 콘니까라 낭베추 송 콘니기 샥바데 예네 콘니양 데네 제와 제마나 낭벨람 용다라 슈네 데부터 송아리니까
And both of them became his disciples. He gave them instructions prior to his passing, and he accepted their regret for what they had done and forgave them. And in their next lives, apparently, they were born with the good circumstances of being able to continue with practicing the Buddhist path, which they did, and achieved some level of realization in that life.
된제게 샤와시 투비에 대 강가데 치와 메딱바 감 메딱베 랑진 똑발라데네 송아래
Sugi.
제점멜라레베
Now, if you remember, Khenpo Rinpoche said at the outset regarding Milarepa that Milarepa had said, I left for the mountains simply because of my fear of death. So his initial fear of death had such a force to it that he left the world and focused on attaining enlightenment, and this he did achieve. And his enlightenment permitted him to aid those who had caused his death so that they also made progress on the path to enlightenment in their next lives. And all of this occurred simply because of Milarepa's fear of death. So that fear was, as it were, a very good thing in terms of the result it caused.
다 전신 시기나네 전신 당고때 대개게라샤 다 전신 이빠데 치외 신이 감바 송하데
Tsenyi, Sedina?
신이 세데 다히 생긴데 간제지 임바
Then we'll go on with the second of the four aspects as to contemplating death. And here the focus is the character of death. What characteristics does death have?
다 다고르미친데 전신 숨게나나 넘견도 데데도 정에 십라신이 쇼비
Oh, so.
다게 소운데는 says
So he begins by listing three principal characteristics. Death is the state where the life force has come to an end. It's exhausted.
데네 웅데는가 송하데
And the second of the three characteristics of death is that the process of breathing stops.
륜데는 로르초르 송하데
And the physical body turns into a dead body, a corpse.
다 됐송데 토망한저 륜데 좁용데 데네 파마닝게 감탕
Lasso?
디 감탕 디iten라 레지 톱지 바든 넘버 셰바데 감
Le tokki.
레 톱지 바든 남셰 대 감 디낭도 숑로기요.
Kangi kam, Pamani kam.
파메니게 감구노.
So, Khenpo Rinpoche says in terms of the first of the three characteristics, that of the life force being spent, as it were. What is the life force, one may wonder? Well, according to the Buddhist teaching, at the time of conception, you have what one could perhaps refer to as the basic components of the genetic material of the two parents, and the mind which wanders in the state between death and a new rebirth. And in terms of the mind that has exited from the body of the previous life, here there are a number of, or rather innumerable, karmic imprints which accompany that mindset or that mind stream, however one wants to phrase it. And because of these karmic imprints, some of them will be karmic imprints in relation to the two future parents, and therefore this mind stream in the state between death and a new rebirth connects with the two parents of his next life, and thus conception takes place. And the mind stream, in terms of conception, merges with the basic components of the genetic material of the two parents.
Tati shuyun tu panna konzo sumrawo chiki cheni shubro ba. Pama nyinge kam tenen pardi napshis.
So here you have three factors at the time of conception. You have the genetic material of the two parents and the mind stream which merges with that genetic material.
Number shepa kola yang shepecha sarikang yoecha long te khajurkin
da de tese kandeji songso
ta rakpa chena somrabu chindoga
lare
te shepjin tawa chena
lare
tela mango chindu gogu yorwa
re
tene perna number shepa namshi sekinte sarik chadrawa.
Now that's a very simplified presentation, that of talking about these three factors alone. One should keep in mind, Khenpo Rinpoche explains, that each of these factors is made up of many factors. If we look at the mind stream, or the mind that takes rebirth, the mind which conjoins with the genetic material of the two parents, that mind isn't just a mind. It's made up of not many factors, but it's made up of a number of workings, a number of functions. It's accompanied by many, many karmic imprints and so on. The list is long. However, the most basic components, as it were, are the basic qualities that any mind has, namely both clear and knowing. Any mind has these two qualities, clarity and a capacity for knowledge, so that and these two qualities then are what permits the acquiring of knowledge of so many things. Da sarriki chade do.
Sarriki chade do.
Tene.
Di nyamdu lungi yowachi yore.
And for that to occur, namely the acquiring of knowledge of so many things, that requires movement. If the qualities clear and knowing were static, nothing could happen. There has to be the element called air, which is about movement, circulation.
Hoya. Ta lungi yohundu yoate zanging jinte le karna de chegi wate. Penna lungi chi yohundu roba.
Lungi yohundu yoju sarrikti roba.
Sarriki chate le karna lungi yohundu.
Da lungi parvachik. Now, air in Sanskrit prana. According to Buddhism, you have many kinds of it. Here at this basic level, the level of conception, there is a specific kind of movement that is at hand, so-called karmic prana, which is about some of the karmic imprints which are stored in the mind stream, taking action, as it were, because of these specific karmic imprints ripening at this point, and therefore conjoining with the two parents of the next life. So that's what makes the mind enter the womb of the future mother, the moment of conception. That movement caused by, well, one could refer to it as a karmic movement. The forces of that specific karmic imprint, or those specific karmic imprints, the impetus or the influence, as it were, of those imprints is such that the mind wandering in the state between death and a new rebirth simply is pushed into the womb of the future mother, where it unites with or merges with the genetic material of the future parents.
Tende nduyung tu tene ta nge so wangbo singe de jobyung tene
in consequence of which the so-called life force of that rebirth appears or comes to be.
ta du tene song de nga ge meset kaset de gi yobate ta so wangbo tel tene so
and it's the life force, that very life force, which sustains life throughout that lifetime.
ta ko choye ra zo de tene mixe leg lung tel tene so go do
Kangi legi lungla tene tsogo.
ta pena ko namshe te ngala shuyon de yove cha le long chi yor wa
Det där sarsong det var, det ekvivalensar va.
jewa lin chan ne ko le long te ge nupa te mazo pa do jewa lin so go ong bo trup de ge yor wa
Redan trupsar va tanda.
trup char wa ta so te de trup dam me trup te so te trup ne yang le ge long te ra le ge yor wa
Redan le karnala tennet sit
Ja,
sidikasi.
ja, tse.
Det sjunger så va.
de le che se ge yor wa
So the length of the lifespan from this moment and onwards is determined by, as it were, the continuing influences of so-called karmic prana, the impetus or the force of the karmic imprints of this individual. So independence upon the nature of those karmic imprints, the lifespan may be a long one or a short one.
Te yin de ta set de do de so gong bom set se yong na yang ya so ye yue de ba nang be tab la
So one may come to a point in life, for example, where whether one will be able to continue to live or not is questionable, though the medical profession has perhaps not yet said that we can't do anything for you. So one might find oneself in a circumstance where one does not know whether one will survive whatever has occurred. Now, in that circumstance, there are certain actions or a specific course of action that one can take which would contribute towards restoring life.
tene ta tin zo tab min ra wa mong go yo de tengen zin ji dob le tene se so tu ye so nam ge cho sa ne se so tu ye tin de mong go song.
There are many methods available here and explained in terms of Buddhist practice by way of stable meditation states, samadhis. Life can be restored by way of engaging in virtuous actions. Life can be restored.
Pernan deve lo ju nang be ge lo ju den zo ta na phe ra ji le cha xiang na ji bu tang ba ten zo ge sem jin su lu dang ne se so tab na ye ge lo su de da ru xiu ji re.
Now in Old Tibet and in today's Tibet still, spiritual guides very often give the following advice to those in a circumstance of this kind, namely to purchase, for example, animals that are destined for slaughter, meaning that one saves them from a horrible death, these animals.
Penna tu tinsang le chashana, bhag jib tambatinzo, penna kinjin sutam lodre, dawjil peshuvina, kong lotakpa janag show the pechene, so cha dongshur solu tanangdoa.
Now, this practice is done today in Tibet. There is one well-known Tibetan Buddhist master, Khenpo Rinpoche, who apparently once a year travels to China, where he purchases with money that's been donated for the purpose milliards and milliards of animals and sets them free. He also travels to various regions of Tibet inhabited by nomads who keep large herds of cattle, and once a year some of the cattle is slaughtered for food for the nomads, as well as for trading the flesh, the meat trade. And this Tibetan Buddhist master of today, Khenpo Rinpoche, also travels to these regions and purchases a great deal of cattle destined for slaughter and sets them free. Khenpo Rinpoche is not the only Tibetan Buddhist master of today who does this. There are many. And in terms of Tibetan Buddhist communities in India, we have one example, the late Jewel Rinpoche, who did the same on a very vast scale throughout his life. And there are many others today who continue this.
Today in the numbers of Kusarin Bushung de Yankenta, Kusigana, Yonshim Bion, Tapshela, Semjin Soku Tan Anjute, Kang, and Sebag Pian Chambore.
And for those of you who would like to have a long lifespan and be in good health throughout, it may be a good idea to do this.
Chonsachil Peshuna, Tandanga Yosa Venage, Choso Kama Sampel singing the Chambo Kayang Mare, Membarian Hachamungo Mare, Nyunure. Yinayang, Nazoge, Rawat Tapchene, Talonga in the Chigarela, so Lulotapa Tangne, Kazan, Tene, Dawadina, Nazo Simjin Shawachi Tang Tupsum. Pengazo le gasoyan yo, teleyan revan kayame.
Revan ekame se.
Jigme Chambungre, Samson Ravatendeg, Ravame, the Tong to some peg gasoy.
Now, Khenpo Rinpoche continues to say the following. As you know, he has a Buddhist association here in Vienna, which he's in charge of. It's a small association. The association doesn't have a large number of members. Even so, 5 years ago, he advised the members of this association here in Vienna, the association guided by him, to as much as possible purchase animals destined for slaughter. And this has been done regularly throughout the last 5 years when possible, in dependence upon donations from members of this association. And this month, the person who is in charge of organizing this primarily informed Khenpo Rinpoche that we've reached the number in terms of having saved lives, 1 million. In this quite short period of time, with not many members. And Khenpo Rinpoche said he was greatly pleased and very happy when this information was given to him. He's not concerned with, in consequence, being spoken of well by others or coming to have a good reputation because of this. Not at all. He is simply very happy about the fact that so many lives have been saved in this way. And that those sentient beings were saved from a great deal of suffering, being given the chance to die a natural death, as it were, not being slaughtered. Now, in terms of various animals and the many species, you have some that are very large and some that are very small. However, the mind which inhabits all of these bodies of these various animals, here size does not apply. It's not the case that the life of a larger animal would be more important in terms of saving that life than the life of a tiny insect. Because when it comes to the mind stream in the body of an animal, no matter what the size, there are no differences in terms of the experience and the suffering associated with, for example, being slaughtered. Each and every one of us, the most important thing to us, if one gives thought to it, would be one's life. What sustains life? We do not want to lose the life force which maintains us, as it were, which keeps us alive. And it's the same for any other sentient being, whether it's an ant or a larger animal or any other kind of sentient being. The life force is what's most important to any kind of sentient being. So we'll continue with the rest of the aspects that are listed in this part of the text on Monday. There is not time to finish this part of the text today.
Sunum Deye Damje Zigpanye Tamnanye Pedranam Pamshe Chega Naje Bala Trupaye Sigbe Sol Rowa Rowa